And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I know I always say that, but I really hope that people, wherever they are enjoying our conversations because we want to make a difference and we want them to be part of the difference that we're making. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning. How are you, my friends, Phoebe and Graham?
Phoebe, how are you?
Good morning and very well. Greetings from Dubai. Nice to be with in all your company.
Yeah, always. So I think that we should talk today about the importance of leaders separating themselves from the people that they're supposed to be leading, that they put themselves up in a high office somewhere and they keep the door locked, and that they always avoid talking to the people who they are supposed to be leading, and that they issue directions, and that this has people thinking, what a wonderful leader that I have in my life. Would you agree?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
I hope not. So here's,
Um,
and of course, we're not
I
going
mean,
to, of
of course they exist. Of course they exist.
course
Yeah.
they exist, but leaders, what do we call them? Tyrants, dictators, and managers maybe. This is, I think, a little timely because it's when we're recording this, the world is very much aware of the passing of the Pope, Pope Francis, the leader of the millions, billions of Catholic followers worldwide. And there are some significant things about Pope Francis that are being recognized now. And one of those things, I think you will all agree, I have to word, one of the things is the humility of this man who was the leader of the Catholic Church. The humility. So hang on, I just said leader and humility in the same sentence. Is that okay? Phoebe.
I think one thing coming to my mind is, how do we define humility in this context of leadership? I just want to hear some of your perspectives on that, Graham.
Good question. Good question. Mohammed, before I take it, what's your response?
Yeah, I've seen many leaders in the corporate world, and we have two types of them: people, leaders who are humble, and leaders who pretend they are humble. In both cases, we have the aspect of vulnerability. All right. So, are you okay to be who you are among your team? Just like you, I am. I mean, apart from my title, I am just like you. I have my fears, I have my ambitions, I have my strengths and weaknesses, and that is where we build bridges between us and our constituents. And on the other hand, there is the same leader who has weaknesses, strengths, ambitions, fears, but he or she is not willing to be for others to know them. So they are separate. They don't go along with their teams, fearing a lot of this will be exposed or uncovered intentionally, unintentionally. So I think the drive for humility, in my opinion, I mean, for being arrogant, actually, it's fear. When I build a wall, I don't want to get in touch with you because I don't know how to handle you, because I don't know how to handle me. So we look at them as arrogant leaders, but they are afraid, actually. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, you're right. When you talk about arrogant leaders building a wall, don't they build a wall? They are fearful that you will find out something about them that's personal, that is a weakness. And if I don't cover up that weakness or my weaknesses, then people won't want to be led by me. Well, guess what? I think if we look around at some of the humble leaders of the world, we'll see that They make mistakes, they admit their mistakes, they talk about them. But they also reach out to others. There is no wall. In fact, there are bridges for them. They build bridges, they build links with other people. They connect with them. Now, a humble leader or leader demonstrating humility will be the one who joins you in the queue to get a cup of coffee where the coffee is. You know, he will join you and talk to you as you are moving forward to get your morning cup of coffee. And he will ask you how your family is and how work's going for you. He will talk to you about the traffic delay that morning. He'll talk to you about the weather. You know, this is what makes, I think, leaders humble. They make a connection with other people in a way that other people feel that we are at a similar level. I want people to always think that I can talk to my leader. Is it cliche in the corporate world, been around a long time, which says my door is always open? Well, I think that might be some sort of attempt at humility, but the door might always be open, but the person may not be in the room, even though the door is open. Their heart may not be there. And when you are humble, you have heart and you make connections with people. You are open. Bibi, has that given you some clarity about, not that you need to be told what humility was, you understand it well. Did you think I gave a reasonable explanation of what humility is?
Yeah, it actually reminded me of one of the leader with whom I have worked. You know, like someone who is you know, communicate openly. We can see and experience that, the way in which the openness happens. And what I have also observed in that case is, like, we can give feedback without any hesitation or fear within us, that creating a psychological safety. And such a leader in the work context, from a hierarchy perspective, have seen admitting the mistakes if they make one. And what I have also observed is the value which they show with respect to the ideas, contributions of others in the room, along with working with them. And what I experienced in that moment is the building of trust, the interest to create collaborative environment. And of course, this leads to innovation in that space. So I can really recall and see that person in front of me, and how wonderful it was to work with such a leader in that space.
Yeah, look, when you're saying this, it reminds me, as I started out mentioning the passing of the Pope. In true transparency, I will admit that I'm not a Catholic, right? So I'm not by any means pushing any doctrine or any particular religion. So I can say this with genuine, I guess, unbiased views, because it's not my faith. But absolutely, do I have great respect for it? Of course. But if we look at the time that the Pope, on Easter Sunday, which was just a little while ago, the Pope went out in his Pope-mobile to see the people who were gathered outside the Vatican, and to hold babies and bless them. Now, he was shown, I believe he was in the, you know, he'd been really very sick since February. And he said, no, I want to go out and see the people. This is one of the most important days. It is the most important day of the Christian faith. And I want to go out and be with the people. I want to connect with the people. This is about his humility. And he died the next day. Now, we could say that if he really was so arrogant and had built a wall, that he would be lying in his bed with doctors and nurses around him saying, no, get me well, I need to be made well again. But no, he went out regardless of how he was, because he knew how important this day was. and to meet the people, to talk to the people, to be seen, and passed away the next day. So, whereas arrogant leaders who don't have the real connection with the people who they are following, would lock themselves in their 27th floor penthouse office or executive suite and send edicts and become invisible almost, except for the messages that they.
And that's why these leaders like Pope Francis, they will remain leaders even if they go away, even if their term finishes, they will remain leaders for the people. And those who were just pretending to be leaders, as soon as their time finishes, they will discover nobody's following them. Actually, even when they were in the position, actually they were not leaders either, even then. And it was only the title that kept them in the, yeah.
Sure. Bibi.
I have a question. Again, this is also to me in this process. So why do we see humility is sometimes overlooked as a leadership quality in our work and in our workplace? What are some of the reasons, maybe?
Steve, can I have a first go at this? Isn't it interesting that when there was a position description advertised, or they list the attributes that they require from this senior person, mid-level person, whatever, but let's just address this more senior level person that they're looking for. They never, the HR people and people who are recruiting, they never put in a line, and he or she must show great humility. Wouldn't it be interesting if that was described as a prerequisite for this position, that we expect that this leader will show great humility in the role? That might be some sort of weakness, but I would love that. And I would then want, if I was interviewing the people, the potential candidates for that position, to say, okay, give me some examples of where you believe you have demonstrated humility.
Well, that's a very powerful question, and I think I haven't experienced that question anywhere in my interviews so far. And often what we have experienced is we are in a dynamic, ever-changing world, and how are we prepared to deal with that kind of question? But actually, I think the question which Graham you asked, imagine that how have you demonstrated humility in your workplace is a question which gives insight into the behavioral and psychological perspective of that individual, and we can see how the person has handled a team, the way in which the recognitions are done, the way in which collaboration have happened, all coming out through that single question. So this is a interesting perspective which you have shared. And one thing which I feel often again, I like to bring this premise that leadership is everyone's business, but in workplace context, what we have seen is sometimes people who are sometimes very aggressive, very much showing off, are considered for senior leadership roles. And what happens is they are not aware of many of the good leadership practices in that way. And again, for example, the first practice of the leadership challenge, modeling the way. Do we want to have such aggressive behavior by the leaders, modeling the culture in that process? So so this framing has brought in a lot of questions within me. How are we modeling in our leadership position? Is that a model we want everyone to follow in the organization?
So, Mohammed, think about this. What you like a leader to be doing that demonstrates humility? Give me some examples of behaviors that demonstrate humility.
Before I say that, I want to bring a story that I saw years back, told by a lecturer about leadership on YouTube. One manager in the United States, let me call him also a leader because he was, he was so good, but in the annual appraisal, he gets low scores from his team. He loved them, they loved him. And he was inquiring, why is this happening? I mean, I'm really engaged with my team. I actually know them all one by one, know their families, know their children's birthdays. And guess what? I get low scores. Where did he get low scores? The reason is that he was very social with them, lovable, humble, but he had low score on giving appropriate feedback. He was so nice that he refrained from giving them true feedback. He didn't want them to feel bad. So actually, he was not very accurate in giving them the real feedback. And guess what? They told him, we love you and we appreciate this relationship, but we'd rather get feedback because we want to grow with you and we want you to make us grow. So this brings me back to a leader I worked with, which was the same, humble with us, joking, etc., but always gives feedback and always gives encouragement, always enables me to act, always encourages my heart, always challenges me, all right? And always a role model and shares the vision. There you go, the 5. So it's the holistic thing. It's not just being humble. So let's not mistake being humble for not also being too nice, because do what you say you would do. There's also a third story that someone told me in my corporate. There is this amazing leader. She's all over, so nice, talking to us, etc. But she doesn't deliver the promises she promised us. So do what you say you would do, all right? So I mean, we like her, but I hope that
Yeah, and look, I think that's a really good comment that you've made about, not only being humble, but you're also the captain of the ship in that sense. You're also providing direction. You're also doing course corrections, as I call them. And this involves conversations with people who you are leading to help them become more effective. And sometimes this is asking them something different to what they've normally been doing it, and we might call this performance management. And yeah, but that leader can still be humble, but it's not about being everyone's best friend in every way, every time.
Yeah. Yes.
The leader is humble. The leader, when he is humble, he lives the 5 practices, of course. He models the way, as Phoebe has said. And we know that by the way he's behaving, or she, that they will get the very best out of us, not by whipping us, not by coercing, not by threatening, but because we want to do the best for this person because of who they are, this leader who is humble. We, as people, as part of this team, have great respect for him or her. We enjoy the interaction that we have with them. And we know that they connect with us deeply, their heart is shown. And we want to do great things with them as part of the team. Humility is so important. So, any comments before we wrap this up? And before I go back into my ivory tower and close the door and send instructions to the world to do things.
I would just stress on this part. And anyone who watches us, do not mistake being humble for being nice. Some people go far too far. They are too afraid to highlight his team's substandard acts, and they don't want to correct them. This is very common. This is very common. I must stay lovable. I must stay nice. And even if that means I just don't act as a leader, but you're a leader, you know.
Can I, before I hear from you, can I just pick up one point in what you're saying? If we have that level of relationship with this leader who is humble and who does all the things that you just said, when they do say to us, hey, great job, I just saw the way you did this, we are going to receive that with far greater impact on ourselves than someone who is always being nice, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because of the respect that we have for that person. And humility is key to it. Libby, please wrap us up.
Humility in leadership I see as the capacity of self-awareness. What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Am I being open to the feedback? Am I learning from others in that process? And also, am I helping others to learn and grow? That is also the humility aspect. So what I want to highlight is, as humble leaders, we admit mistakes, we acknowledge our limitations, and we convey that message, feeding back what our thoughts are to our fellow members in such a fashion that gives learning opportunities for them, provide them new perspectives. And what in this process happens is you foster the trust between people. It encourages collaboration between you and the team around you, and also create a culture which helps the organization thrive. So try to be a humble leader in your work and workplace and in your family.
Just like you are, and just like you are also, Mohammed. Gentlemen, I thank you for this conversation. I think we should encourage humility with all the leaders. It's not hard, and if we help leaders get over the fear that they have of exposing their negatives or faults about themselves, and that they open themselves up to authenticity and talking to people they're leading as if they can really care about it. And they are happy, as I said, to admit mistakes, to admit weaknesses, to smile and be friendly. Gentlemen, I wish you a great week ahead. Mohammed, thank you so much. I hope the book sales are going extremely well. I hear the rumor that you're going to be top of the New York bookseller list really very soon. So that's exciting. And I know that your humility will remain with you when you have become recognized as a New York best-selling author, New York bestseller list author. And Phoebe, thank you also for your wisdom, and I wish everybody a great week ahead. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.